I don't think people actually understand how much I actually love making movies. So I came across this old 8mm camera. This is actually my first personal video camera I ever owned, and it's a Sony Handycam 8mm camera. But let me take you back before that. When I was about 11, my mom, that's actually my mom's camera, and she wouldn't let me use the camera, so I became very intrigued about these cameras. And I went over to my uncle's house, and he had actually one of these cameras. It's a big VHS camera. You open it up, the VHS tape goes in there, and you kind of just point and shoot. And so I went over to his house, and he had one of these. My mom wouldn't let me touch her camera because she didn't want me to break it because I was about 11. But my uncle says, you seem like you're pretty interested in these cameras. Here, you can use my camera and go out and, film something. So I went out and I started making my own little movies. There weren't really movies because, I didn't know how to edit or do anything like that. They were actually just me filming and me, acting out stuff with my friends. And actually, here's a clip from one of my first movies.
Pick up! Ambulance won't work. Neither stuff poisoning this one. Whoa!
So yeah, I was super young. I didn't know anything about filmmaking. And I specifically remember asking this question to my uncle. I said, how do you switch from angle to angle like they do in the movies? You know how they go from one angle to the other angle to the other angle and switch back and forth. He says, well, all you really have to do is press this button to stop or to start, and then press it to stop, switch your angle, and then push it again to start recording and pick up where you left off. And it hit me. I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of that. And I started using that technique where I could switch angles and showing people my movies. Hey, me and my friend made this, or me and my, I was only like 11 or 12, like I said. But yeah, I started switching the angles and everything and showing people, and they were like, man, this is, getting pretty good, Eventually, I asked my mom and dad for a camera, and I remember I saved up for a whole summer, and I bought their camera off of them, and it was this 8mm camera right here. But yeah, this was my first ever personal camera that I said, hey, this is mine. And I didn't have to borrow someone else's camera. I could just go out and I could shoot whenever I wanted. And that's what I started doing, is I started shooting a lot of movies. Just anything I could think of, skateboard movies, my cousins riding their dirt bikes, anything that I could possibly film, I filmed with this camera and made them into little movies. I still didn't have an editing program, and that was kind of a problem. But by the time that I got to high school, I've shot so many of these little movies, and I asked someone at one time, how do you take your footage from the camera, from the tape inside these cameras, and put them on your computer? Because I remember seeing, they had Windows Movie Maker, and I wanted to put my movies inside there. And he says, I forgot who told me this, but they said all you need is a FireWire, and it's basically a cable that hooks in to, basically it hooks into this little port right here, and then it plugs right into your computer. And that was a total game changer, because I was like, wow, I can take my movies off my cameras and put them on my computer now, and I don't have to sit there because before what I was doing is, all right, go, and push play, and then record, and then stop, and then switch my angle, and then, okay, go. But now, and if someone messed up or anything, I'd have to be like, oh man, you messed up. So I'd have to look back and I had to push play and rewind and go, right to the right place to change it. But now since I could put it on my computer, I could just set my camera and say, all right, go. And if they messed up, I said, all right, just go back and do it again. I can change that when I'm editing. Another cool thing was, I could have them act out the whole scene, and then I could go in again and get another angle of that whole scene, and then I could cut in between them and go back and forth from each scene that I edited with. And that's where it really changed, was with that editing program. But like I said, I was using Windows Movie Maker. But by the time that I got to high school and I had, a few videos on YouTube, that me and my cousins made and some of my friends made, and I just had, a couple movies on YouTube. And I started showing some of my teachers when it was freshman year. I started showing some of my teachers, and my teachers, man, this guy's pretty good. Yeah, I see some talent here. And he says, well, let me enter you into this film contest. And I remember it. It was the Sony Film Contest. And I remember, if you entered, you got a copy of Sony Vegas Pro 8 the Sony Vegas Pro 8. And I entered and I got the copy of the Sony Vegas Pro 8, and it was just a total game changer because of the fact that now it had audio grids. I could detach the audio from the video, because before I had to act out that whole scene, and then act it out again, and then act it out again. And I couldn't really change any angles, because if they were saying something, I had to cut what they were saying and then go into the other scene. And now that I could detach the audio, I could shoot them saying that whole scene, and then get some other angles of just around the room or whatever, and then detach the audio and put another scene inside there. It was just amazing. And also keyframes. I remember, I'll never forget the first time I learned about keyframes. I went out and I shot this. And it was just amazing. I never knew anything about this. You can actually, it's almost like scissors. You can cut out people or whatever you want, and you can manipulate them any way they want. And then I learned, man, you can also drag in elements that have alpha channels in them. And then I started doing stuff like this.
Can't really see anything. It's not.
And then I got into sound effects. And Sony Vegas also had like color correction, brightness and contrast, film effects, just all that really, really great stuff. And I was also used to using Windows Movie Maker. I just soaked everything in, and I tried to learn every possible thing at the time. Eventually, I got this. It's a JVC Vario. It's a little camera. I mean, if you look at my cameras, they kind of go down in size each time. This really changed me also because of the fact that now I wouldn't have to sit there with that FireWire and push play and wait for all the tape to go into my computer. I could just drag and drop my footage from the hard drive onto my editing program and just edit right from there. And it was just amazing to me that. And this is, I said, man, this is the future. I don't want to use tape anymore. I'll never touch tape again, Not to mention now, sometimes I just love the look of tape, so I go back now and I just, sometimes I'll film on my 8mm or whatever, just because I like the tape look sometimes. But yeah, I started making more and more films with the JVC Vario, and I was editing them on Sony Vegas, and at that time I said, man, I need a website. I seen all these other filmmakers. They had websites and all this cool stuff, and I had a YouTube channel, and that was about it. And I remember making like a little bit of websites. My friend showed me some websites where you can just drag and drop stuff when I was living way down south in South Carolina. And I remembered it, and I said, man, I wonder if I can do that now. And I went back and I looked at, some of the websites that he was showing me. And then I learned, hey, you can upload your own custom code so you don't have to drag and drop. So I started learning HTML, CSS, and just coding languages and taking all that in. I took a break from filmmaking for a while and took in all of this website design. And then I made myself a website, and I put all my movies on there from YouTube, and I put some of my photos from Flickr, because at the time my grandma had a Nikon D90, and I was using it, to take photography pictures. And now I had the knowledge of filmmaking, website design, and I knew a little bit about photography. And with those three things, I was like, man, let's let's try my hand at sales now. So I went out and I found some businesses that didn't have websites or videos or anything, and I said, at this time I was probably like 16, maybe 15, 16. I didn't have my license until I was like 17, so I was walking up to these stores and saying, hey, I see you guys didn't have a website or a video up or anything like that. And I started talking to them, and I showed him some of my work, and I was just starting out, and I was a kid, and I don't know if it was like, probably felt sorry for me or something. I don't know. But eventually I convinced a few of them to let me, make websites and videos for them and photos. And that's where I really took off in the business aspect. I really put my all into my work because, I love doing these things. Like I said, I started when I was like 11, making movies on this. And I was finally, people were paying me to make movies and websites, and I just loved doing all this stuff anyways. So, I poured all my heart into all this stuff that I did and made awesome videos and websites for all these businesses. More and more people started seeing it. And then eventually, and I'll never forget this, a company came to me when I was probably around, 18, 19, and they said to me, we want to shoot a video for the television. We've seen all your work that you do, and you do pretty awesome work, for your age, and how much, will it cost to shoot a video? And, I gave them a, pretty cheap rate because I was still, young. And I pulled out my camera, the little JVC camera. And they're like, whoa. All right, I guess let's do it this way. What do you need to shoot a video for a TV show? And at the time, I was really looking at the Canon T3i because it had everything that I wanted. It had detachable lenses, because all my cameras before never had detachable lenses. They were all just one lens. And I really want to be able to change out my lenses so I can get different effects and different, depth of fields and everything. So Canon T3i had the detachable lenses. It had a spot where you could plug in mics. I mean, most of these other cameras had mic inputs in them. I never really used them until, I was, a little bit older, and I realized, hey, you need to have pretty good audio in your videos. And so I started using my mic inputs, and then that's another thing. So I needed detachable lenses, and I needed a mic input. And the third thing, I said, I do not want to use tape at all. So the Canon T3i was the perfect choice. Detachable lenses, mic input, it took SD card. It was just perfect. And so I said, I need a Canon T3i. I need a lighting kit, which a lighting kit was only like, I think $100. And I also need a mixer. And I'll show you that. This is my mixer. I actually attached it right to my tripod. And what it actually is it's just like a little mixer, like a little audio mixer that you mix sound for on your computer. But it sits right on your mic stand. It runs off two 9-volt batteries, and you can plug in 4 mics to it. And this little output little thing right here runs right to your camera. And you plug in, I think it's only like $100, $150, and it's just perfect. And it has phantom power, so you can run big mics like this. If you want to run big mics, you have the phantom power right there. So yeah, and I got that, and I shot the info commercial, and ever since then, I've been making movies and loving making movies. And it was just today that I pulled out the 8mm, and it made me think, man, I've been through a lot with film, and I love film, and I want to do film for the rest of my life. Before you judge, a filmmaker, to look at his work. I mean, if you want to check out my work, go to my website. I mean, I do have some old stuff on there, and like I said, I'm only 21. I only just turned 21, and I only got this camera I'm filming on right now when I was about 18, 19. So I've only had a limited time to film, and I'm just growing, and I want to be able to keep growing, but I need a community of people that want to help me grow. And I guess the other reason that I'm making this video, besides for sentimental purposes of, my history of filmmaking, is to tell people that are starting with anything. And that it doesn't even have to be just filmmaking. But I'm going to use this filmmaking for a reference, is this, that you don't need all the best equipment to start with anything. All you need is the necessary equipment. Like I said, I started on the big VHS camera with no editing program. This is what I started on. And as long as you have the necessary equipment, and you're good at what you do, or you're passionate about what you do, you will eventually get to where you want to be as long as you love what you're doing enough. So if you love what you're doing, never give up on what you're trying to do. And like one of my favorite philosophers said, Alan Watts, he says, and that's the only way to master something is to really be with it. Like, really, I don't do filmmaking for the money. Alan Watts once said, what do you really want to do? What would you enjoy spending the rest of your life doing if money was no object? And when you finally come down to something that you would do above anything, if money was no object, do that and forget the money. Because if you spend your life with money as the main object, then you'll waste your whole entire life, because you'll be doing things that make you unhappy to continue on doing things that make you unhappy. It's better to have a short life full of things that you enjoy doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. I guess this is what I'm really trying to make the video for, is to show you some of my past in filmmaking. And if you really enjoy doing something, just keep going with it, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be.